It started with a thud on the porch and a wagging tail. In the quiet suburbs of Northern Oregon, 2022, a man named Tom opened his back door to find his golden retriever Max beaming with pride, and beside him, a full-grown bobcat. You might think that sounds impossible, but wait until you hear what happened next. What began as a normal afternoon turned into one of the strangest, funniest animal encounters ever seen in this quiet neighborhood. You probably won't believe how it ended. So before you get into this unbelievable story, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like the story I'm telling. The afternoon sun hung low over the Oregon treetops, casting golden light through the backyard. The air smelled of pine and damp earth, Max's favorite perfume. Tom leaned on the porch rail sipping coffee, waiting for the familiar jingle of Max's collar from the woods. His golden retriever had a daily ritual. Disappear for an hour, return muddy and ecstatic, usually with a branch or a tennis ball he'd rediscovered. But this time, Max came home with something that didn't fit in his mouth or in the category of normal. There was a soft rustling at the edge of the trees. Then Max appeared, tail wagging in a blur, eyes bright with triumph. Behind him padded a sleek, muscular bobcat. Its spotted fur glinted in the light, its tufted ears twitching with alert precision. It was tall, calm, not remotely interested in the human gawking from the porch. Tom froze. His coffee hovered midair. "Buddy, what did you do?" The dog barked once, proud and cheerful, as if introducing his new best friend. The bobcat blinked slowly, utterly unimpressed. In a flash of fur and misplaced optimism, Max bounded up the steps and into the house. His guest followed at a cautious pace. Tom's brain stalled somewhere between call animal control and get the camera. He chose neither. He just followed, muttering, "This can't be happening." The living room transformed into a comedy sketch. Max bounced in circles, tail thumping furniture, while the bobcat leapt onto the couch like it had reserved seating. A pillow exploded in a puff of feathers. "Out! Both of you out!" Tom shouted. But the bobcat had other plans. It jumped off the couch, padded across the room, and found something irresistible: Max's dog bed, a soft, oversized oval of comfort in the corner. The wildcat sniffed it once, kneaded it twice, then flopped down and curled into a perfect smug ball. The claim was absolute. Max froze mid-tail wag. His ears drooped. He looked at his bed, then at the bobcat, then back at Tom, clearly hoping someone would fix this terrible injustice. Tom rubbed his forehead. "Max, I think you've been evicted." What followed was a full hour of silent negotiation between two species. Max tried everything: gentle nudges, hopeful whines, even presenting his favorite squeaky duck as a peace offering. The bobcat remained motionless, except for the occasional flick of its tail, its golden eyes half closed, radiating royal disinterest. Tom pulled out his phone and filmed a few seconds. The footage looked like a nature documentary gone wrong. Here we have the suburban golden retriever attempting diplomacy with a small but firm dictator. By now, feathers from the destroyed pillow floated lazily through the air like snow. The coffee cup had tipped over on the rug. Tom sighed, torn between laughter and disbelief. When he tried to gently usher the bobcat toward the door with the broom, the animal merely turned its head and yawned, a wide, lazy, confident yawn that said, "Try it, human." Tom stopped immediately. Max, meanwhile, plopped down beside his occupied bed, chin on the floor, eyes wide and patient. Every few minutes, he'd wag his tail softly as though waiting for an invitation to join. It never came. Evening crept in. The room grew quiet, except for the sound of Max's breathing and the faint hum of the refrigerator. Tom sat in his chair, phone in hand, still unsure if he should call someone. But what would he even say? My dog brought home a bobcat, and now it lives here? Eventually, exhaustion won. The bobcat stretched, yawned again, and nestled deeper into the bed. Max sighed and curled up next to it, careful not to disturb the new tenant. Within minutes, both were asleep. one regal, one resigned. Tom watched them, head shaking slowly. The scene was ridiculous, tender, and oddly peaceful. Two worlds, the wild and the domestic, meeting in the quiet truce of shared warmth. Before turning off the lights, he whispered, "All right, you two, but tomorrow we're setting some rules." The house settled into silence. Outside, the woods waited for morning. Inside, a golden retriever and a bobcat dreamed side by side, one dreaming of fetch, the other of forests. And in the corner, the torn pillow continued to shed its feathers, floating like tiny reminders that life, no matter how ordinary it seems, can turn wild in an instant. Morning light spilled into the living room, painting soft stripes across the mess left behind. Feathers, paw prints, and one lonely sock decorated the floor like evidence of a mild crime scene. Tom shuffled in, half awake, clutching his coffee. He stopped short. The bobcat was still there. It sat upright in Max's bed, tail wrapped neatly around its paws, staring straight at him as if to say, "You again?" Max, sprawled nearby, looked up with his tongue lolling out, clearly thrilled that his guest had decided to stay. "Unbelievable," Tom muttered. "You brought home a wild animal, and now it's renting." The bobcat blinked slowly. Max thumped his tail in response, probably interpreting this as a compliment. When Tom walked toward the kitchen, the bobcat followed with silent grace. It leapt onto the counter as if inspecting the morning routine. Tom froze mid-step. No, absolutely not. Then came breakfast time. Tom poured kibble into Max's bowl, and instantly, the bobcat appeared at his side, eyes sharp with curiosity. Max, eager to share, stepped back politely. The bobcat sniffed, took one dainty bite, and looked unimpressed. Tom laughed in disbelief. "Right, not gourmet enough for you." By mid-morning, the house was in full comedic disarray. Max followed the bobcat everywhere, like an over-enthusiastic tour guide, proudly showing his toys, his bed, still occupied, and his treat stash. The bobcat examined each with cool detachment. Eventually, Tom gave up and called the local wildlife rescue hotline. When the wildlife officer Donna arrived, she couldn't help but laugh. "He doesn't look aggressive, more like mildly inconvenienced." Max greeted her enthusiastically, spinning in circles. The bobcat merely blinked from its perch. Donna set a carrier on the floor, coaxing gently with cooked chicken. The bobcat's ears twitched. It leapt down, approached cautiously, and sniffed. Then Max barked, joyful, loud, and proud. The bobcat hissed once, snatched the chicken, and retreated to the couch. "Okay," Donna said, stifling laughter. "He's not ready to check out yet." That evening, Max and the bobcat sat side by side, watching the sunset through the sliding door. Max's fur shimmered gold in the light. The bobcat's coat looked like molten bronze. For a few quiet moments, they seemed like equals, two creatures from different worlds sharing a single patch of calm. Tom watched from the kitchen, half amused, half resigned. "Max, I think you just adopted a wild cat." As night fell, the bobcat climbed back into Max's bed. Max curled up beside it again, resting his head on the edge like a loyal host. Tom shook his head, smiling despite himself. "All right, gentlemen, don't wreck the house while I'm asleep." The next morning, it dawned calm and bright. Tom walked in with his coffee, bracing himself for another day of chaos. But the dog bed was empty. The bobcat was gone. Max sat near the back door, nose pressed to the glass, tail giving slow, uncertain wags. Tom followed his gaze to the woods beyond the fence. "Well, buddy, I guess our little visitor finally checked out." But Max didn't move. His ears perked up, and then he barked once, sharp, urgent, excited. Before Tom could stop him, Max dashed outside. Tom ran after him. Max sprinted through the grass and disappeared into the tree line, nose to the ground. Tom followed, ducking under branches. The forest was alive with morning sounds. Then Tom heard it, another sound, softer, unfamiliar, a chirp, almost like a kitten's mew. There, nestled in the shade under a fallen log, were two tiny bobcat cubs. Tom's heart skipped. The adult bobcat appeared moments later, stepping cautiously from behind a cluster of ferns. It wasn't angry. It simply looked at Max, then at Tom, as if waiting for approval. Tom understood instantly. The bobcat hadn't been lost or curious. It had been seeking safety. Max approached slowly, tail swishing, head low in respect. When he reached the cubs, he sniffed gently, then sat down beside them. Tom smiled. "You're one in a million, Max." For a while, the clearing stayed perfectly still. The bobcat licked one of her cubs, then turned her amber eyes to Max again. Tom crouched and took a photo, just one. The light caught all of them together. The golden dog, the spotted mother, her two tiny shadows. Then quietly, the bobcat stood. She nudged her cubs toward the forest's deeper cover. Max stood too, but didn't chase. He only watched, ears forward, tail moving in a slow rhythm. When the last bit of spotted fur vanished between the trees, Tom exhaled. "You just made peace with the wilderness, my friend." Back at the house, Tom called the wildlife center. Donna laughed when she heard. "You're lucky she trusted you enough to bring her kids so close." "I think she trusted him," Tom replied, watching Max. "He's got that kind of heart." Over the next few days, things returned to normal. Yet, now and then, Max would stand by the window, staring into the woods with a patient, knowing look. One afternoon, Tom noticed movement at the edge of the trees. For a split second, he saw the bobcat perched on a rock, watching. Their eyes met across the distance. Then she slipped away, silent as wind. That evening, the sun dipped behind the pines. Inside, Max curled up on his freshly reclaimed bed, sighing deeply. Outside, somewhere in the shadows, a mother bobcat led her cubs along a ridge, their soft footsteps fading into the hum of the forest. And for the first time in days, the world felt perfectly balanced, half wild, half home. The story of Max and the bobcat settled into local legend. Tom would sometimes tell it to neighbors, never quite believing it himself. The wild and the domestic had met for one strange, funny, and tender week, and somehow understood each other. If you were in Tom's place, and your dog brought home a creature from the wild, what would you do? Turn it away? Or open the door and see what happens? Thank you for listening to the whole story. Tell me what you think by commenting below.